The prisoner's face is pressed against the wall. His hands are cuffed behind his back. Two guards grip his arms so tightly that bruises form instantly. And this is just him walking to breakfast. Welcome to Black Dolphin, a place where Russia sends the men they never want to see daylight again. Serial killers, cannibals, terrorists who've murdered dozens. And here's the thing that'll make your skin crawl: in over 20 years of operation, not a single inmate has ever escaped. Not one. Inside these walls, 700 of Russia's most violent criminals live under conditions so extreme that human rights organizations have called it psychological torture. But before we go deeper into this nightmare, make sure you're subscribed, because I cover the world's most brutal prisons every single week. And trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. Black Dolphin Prison sits in the remote city of Soletsk, in the Orenburg Oblast region of Russia, just 40 miles from the Kazakhstan border. The name sounds almost poetic, doesn't it? Black Dolphin. But there's nothing beautiful about this place. The facility earned its name from a black dolphin statue that inmates crafted and placed near the entrance, a monument built by the very men who would never swim free again. It is one of only a handful of prisons in Russia designated for the absolute worst of the worst. We're not talking about drug dealers or thieves. Every single inmate at Black Dolphin is serving a life sentence. The minimum body count to get through these doors: 2 murders. Most inmates have killed far more. The prison houses cannibals like Alexander Spasivtsov, who murdered and consumed at least 19 people. It holds terrorists responsible for mass casualty events. It contains men who've committed crimes so depraved that Russian courts decided society could never risk their release. And the Russian government designed a system specifically to break them down, piece by piece, day after day, for the rest of their lives. What you're about to hear will change how you think about incarceration forever. Your life at Black Dolphin begins the moment you arrive. And I mean the exact moment. You're brought into the intake area with a black bag over your head. Before the bag comes off, guards bend you forward at a 90-degree angle. Your hands are cuffed behind your back. And this is the position you'll be in every single time you move anywhere in the facility. Every single time. Here's why: the architects designed Black Dolphin so inmates can never memorize the layout. If you can't see where you're going, you can't plan an escape. You can't map out guard positions. You can't identify weaknesses in the security infrastructure. You're completely disoriented, completely dependent, completely controlled. Your cell is 50 square feet. That's smaller than a king-size bed. Inside, you get a steel bed frame attached to the wall, a small table, and a toilet. The bed has a restriction: you're not allowed to lie down between 5 a.m. and 10 p.m. You must sit upright on that steel frame for 17 hours every single day. If you lie down, guards watching through the peephole in your door will wake you up. They check every 15 minutes, 24 hours a day. You haven't had uninterrupted sleep since you arrived. The cells have no windows. None. You live in perpetual artificial light, never knowing if it's day or night without counting the meals they slide through your door slot. Your sense of time dissolves within the first month. But here's where it gets worse. Remember how I said you're bent over whenever you move? That includes your 1 hour of exercise per day. You're taken to a concrete cage, essentially a larger cell with no equipment, no weights, nothing. You walk in circles, bent over, hands cuffed, for 60 minutes. Then you're escorted back, bent over, to your windowless box. Vladimir Nikolaev, a former guard who worked at Black Dolphin for 7 years, described the inmates this way: they are not treated as humans. They have lost their right to be called human. These are animals in human form, and we treat them accordingly. The psychological impact is calculated and intentional. Dr. Mikhail Vinogradov, a Russian psychologist who studied the facility, noted that within 6 months, most inmates begin showing signs of severe mental deterioration. They talk to themselves. They lose track of basic facts about their own lives. Some forget the names of their children. And every single day, the routine is identical. You wake up at 5 a.m. when guards bang on your door. You sit upright on your bed. You receive breakfast through the door slot, usually thin porridge and black bread. You sit. You receive lunch. You sit. You take your 1 hour exercise in the concrete cage. You sit. You receive dinner. You sit until 10 p.m. You sleep, interrupted every 15 minutes by guards checking on you. You will do this every single day until you die. If this is blowing your mind right now, hit that like button because what I'm about to tell you next is even more disturbing. The system gets darker. The psychological torture extends beyond isolation and sleep deprivation. Black Dolphin operates on a principle called absolute control, and guards enforce it through a system of perpetual surveillance and unpredictability. Your cell door has multiple peepholes. Guards look through them constantly, but you never know when. You could be using the toilet. You could be changing clothes. You could be crying alone in the corner. Someone is always watching, and you never know who or when. This creates what psychologists call perpetual performance anxiety. You can never truly be alone, never truly relax, never let your guard down. The food is deliberately designed to sustain life and nothing more. Former inmate testimony describes meals as the same gray mass, day after day, year after year. No variation, no flavor, no nutrition beyond the bare minimum to prevent death. Many inmates develop scurvy, lose their teeth, and suffer from malnutrition-related diseases. Medical care is minimal. You get treatment only if you're actively dying. Communication with the outside world is almost non-existent. You're allowed 2 visits per year from family members. Each visit lasts 2 hours. You sit separated by thick glass, speaking through a phone that crackles and cuts out. Many inmates report that after the first few years, family members stop coming. The journey to Soledetsk is expensive and difficult. Hope fades. Connections dissolve. Letters are allowed, but they're heavily censored. Guards read every word. Anything deemed inappropriate is blacked out. Some letters arrive with so much content redacted that only a few words remain visible. And outgoing letters, they're often lost in the system, never reaching their intended recipients. But perhaps the most psychologically devastating element is the complete absence of hope. In many prison systems around the world, even lifers have some possibility of parole, some chance at redemption, some goal to work toward. Not at Black Dolphin. Russia abolished parole for life sentences in 2004. Every inmate knows with absolute certainty that they will die in their cell. There is no incentive for good behavior. There is no rehabilitation program. There is only waiting for death. Andrei Chikatilo Jr., the son of one of Russia's most notorious serial killers, said about his father's time at Black Dolphin, "My father told me during a visit that he prayed for death every single day. He said the execution chamber would have been mercy. This is torture that never ends." The guards themselves are carefully selected. They undergo psychological screening to ensure they can handle working in such a dark environment. Many former guards report suffering from PTSD, nightmares, and depression after leaving Black Dolphin. One anonymous guard told a Russian journalist, "You spend your days looking into the eyes of monsters. And slowly, you feel yourself becoming one. You stop seeing them as human. But worse, you stop seeing yourself as human." The execution chamber still exists at Black Dolphin, a remnant from when Russia used capital punishment. It hasn't been used since 1996, when Russia placed a moratorium on executions, but it remains a grim reminder to inmates that there are fates they might consider worse than death. Riots are impossible. The cells are individual. Inmates never interact with each other. They can't organize. They can't plan. They can't even communicate beyond shouting through steel doors, which is immediately punished with solitary confinement, which, ironically, is the same as their regular cell, just with even less food. So how does anyone survive this? What does survival even mean in a place designed to destroy you from the inside out? The truth is, most don't survive, not mentally. According to leaked internal documents, approximately 60% of Black Dolphin inmates develop severe psychiatric conditions within their first 5 years. They hear voices. They see things that aren't there. They lose the ability to distinguish between memory and reality. But there are very few who have found ways to maintain their sanity in this concrete hell, and their methods are both fascinating and disturbing. Some inmates create elaborate fantasy worlds in their minds. They mentally design houses, plan gardens, construct entire fictional lives they'll never live. One inmate, whose name was withheld, told a prison psychologist that he lived in a cabin by a lake in his mind. Every day during his 17 hours of forced sitting, he would mentally fish, cook meals, repair his cabin, and watch sunsets. He said it was more real to him than the cell. Others develop obsessive routines beyond what the prison requires. They count. One inmate counted every breath he took for 7 years. Another counted the number of times guards checked his cell. These compulsive behaviors create a sense of control in an environment designed to strip control away entirely. Religious conversion is common. Men who committed unspeakable atrocities suddenly discover faith not because they necessarily believe, but because it provides structure, meaning, and hope for something beyond the cell. The prison allows religious texts, and some inmates memorize entire books, reciting passages for hours each day. Physical deterioration is inevitable. The lack of proper exercise, the poor nutrition, and the stress cause inmates to age rapidly. A man who enters at 30 looks 60 within a decade. Their teeth fall out. Their hair goes white. Their bodies break down. But here is the thing that'll shock you. Some inmates prefer Black Dolphin to their previous facilities. Why? Because there's no violence between inmates. You can't be stabbed in the yard. You can't be raped in the showers. You can't be pressured into joining a gang or extorted for commissary items. The isolation that destroys your mind simultaneously protects your body. Gennady Modestov, who was transferred to Black Dolphin after killing 3 fellow inmates at another prison, said in a rare interview, "Here, I am alone with my demons. But they are my demons. Not someone else's knife in my back. Not someone else's fists. I chose this hell. I earned it." And strangely, there is peace in that. The guards say the inmates who last the longest are the ones who accept that they deserve this, the ones who fight against it, who maintain their innocence, who rage against the system they break faster. Acceptance is survival. Black Dolphin today houses approximately 700 inmates. The average age is 52. The average sentence remaining, infinity. In 2019, human rights organizations from across Europe condemned the facility. Amnesty International called it a place where human dignity goes to die. The United Nations Human Rights Committee requested access to inspect conditions. Russia denied the request. When international pressure mounted, Russian officials released a statement. These are not victims. These are predators, society's most dangerous individuals. They are treated according to the threat they pose. And here is something that'll make you think. Russia's recidivism rate for violent crime has dropped significantly since Black Dolphin and similar facilities opened. Is it because the threat of such extreme punishment deters crime, or is it simply because the most violent criminals never re-enter society? The data doesn't tell us which. Some of Black Dolphin's most notorious inmates have died in their cells. Andrei Chikatilo, the butcher of Rostov, who murdered at least 52 women and children, died in his cell in 1994 before the current regime was fully implemented, but while in the facility. The families of victims have mixed feelings. Some find comfort knowing these men suffer every day. Others say no amount of suffering can balance the scales of what was taken from them. Svetlana Mikhailova, whose daughter was murdered by a Black Dolphin inmate, said, "I wanted him to die. But my daughter is still gone. His pain doesn't bring her back. It doesn't heal anything. It just exists, like my grief exists." One man, released after DNA evidence exonerated him after 11 years at Black Dolphin, said, "I cannot sleep in darkness. I cannot close a door behind me. I cannot be alone in a room. They released my body, but my mind is still in that cell. It will always be in that cell. The psychological impact extends to the guards, the administrators, even the city of Solovletsk itself. The town has one of the highest rates of depression and alcoholism in Russia. Living in the shadow of such concentrated human misery affects everyone. And here's perhaps the most chilling fact: Black Dolphin is not unique. Russia operates several facilities with similar conditions, and around the world, supermax prisons in the United States, China, and other countries employ many of the same techniques: extreme isolation, constant surveillance, sensory deprivation, and the elimination of hope. The question we have to ask ourselves is this: what is the purpose of prison? Is it punishment, rehabilitation, protection of society, deterrence? Black Dolphin makes a clear statement: for some crimes, for some criminals, society has decided that the only appropriate response is permanent removal and perpetual suffering. Whether that makes us safer or simply makes us more comfortable with institutional cruelty, that is something each of us has to decide. As of 2025, Black Dolphin continues to operate exactly as it has for over 2 decades. New inmates arrive regularly. Old inmates die regularly. The Black Dolphin statue still stands at the entrance, a memorial to freedom built by men who will never experience it again. And somewhere in that facility right now, 700 men sit on steel beds in windowless cells, counting the minutes until their 1 hour in a concrete cage, knowing that tomorrow will be exactly the same as today, and every day after, until they die. If this story disturbed you, educated you, or made you think differently about justice and punishment, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I cover the world's most extreme prisons, the darkest true crime cases, and the stories that most people don't want to talk about every single week. Drop a comment below and tell me, do you think Black Dolphin goes too far, or do some crimes deserve this level of punishment? And let me know which prison you want me to cover next. I am thinking ADX Florence in Colorado, or maybe Thailand's Bangkok Hilton. Thanks for watching. And remember, the darkness we explore together helps us appreciate the light.